Hey everybody, can you hear me? Doing an audio check. Somebody write in the comments if you can hear me. Oh my god, thank you for your patience. Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. So, everything was perfect except when I hit the button to stream on Open Broadcaster Studio, and when I hit the button, it crashed. So, yeah, that was completely unexpected. So I'm doing a command line FFmpeg, recording the desktop and streaming to YouTube. I did so much searching on Google and everything, and I finally figured out how to do it. But yeah, let's not belabor the point, and let's start talking about video and data streaming for RaceCapture. All right, let me go into presentation mode. My brain is a little fried trying to get the streaming to work because I know you're all waiting, but I will compose myself. And yeah, get to it. Let's see, slide. Let's see, view, slideshow. Okay, here we are. Okay, so we're going to talk about live streaming video plus data with your existing RaceCapture system. So what's that all about? Well, RaceCapture was never designed to record or broadcast video. It was always designed as a data system, and yeah, it was a data-only system, but we kept improving the software, and we actually came up with an approach for doing the video and data overlay, and we're going to show you how that works. So we developed a way to make it work with your existing system. Got to remember these slides. So the cost, as low as $0, and we'll explain what that means. You already have a RaceCapture system, and that's part of the equation. What's cool is that it may rival $5,000 and up solutions, and you're going to, if you're willing, you're going to help us test and prove that out. So we're really excited to get this to you. So why are we doing this? Because we're idiots. We should be charging for this, the software upgrade. So yeah, I guess it doesn't make much business sense. Oops. But we also really appreciate our community, and we want to bring this to you as a great new capacity. We've been thinking about this for a long time, and we have a way of doing it now. So how does this work? Well, it works with any RaceCapture or Podium Connect system. So any RaceCapture system that was released, if it works with the RaceCapture system right now, it will work with this approach. I'm able to see the comments, so if you have any questions, just ping away. Otherwise, I will roll through these slides, and then I'll go through another demo. So how does it work? You're probably wondering, how does it work? Okay, so we use an external video render, encoder, and streaming agent that works with your RaceCapture system, and we'll explain how that works. So here's a system diagram of what it looks like. So there's the RaceCapture system you have already, and your existing system may work with a Bluetooth connection to a dashboard, like running on a Fire tablet or similar. Because RaceCapture supports multiple connections, there is this streamer encoder agent that sits in the middle between YouTube and RaceCapture, and it has cameras connected to it. And most people have hotspots, so you'll be able to use your existing hotspot. And then that is responsible for streaming video and data to YouTube. So RaceCapture allows multiple connections. Yes, we covered that. The renderer, the streamer or encoder, is responsible for rendering the video and data, encoding it, and also broadcasting it to YouTube, along with the camera connections. So this device does multiple functions in one. Like if you're familiar with existing systems, let's say it's like a VBox or something else, you'll have that thing generating the video with the data overlay and has the HDMI output, and then that would go to a live shell, and then that would go to a hotspot, and then that would go to YouTube. So what this solution does is it does the rendering, it does the encoding, and it also does the broadcast to YouTube. So this streamer, what it uses an off-the-shelf micro PC running headless. We have USB cameras and microphones attached, and there is a RaceCapture app dashboard with video gauges. That's how it works. Does the Cameron asks, does the encoder require USB or will it work with Wi-Fi? No, to the RaceCapture system. Yeah, we can cover that later, but it can connect via Wi-Fi. It doesn't have to connect over USB. We have that outlined in the wiki. Let's see here. We are still streaming. Okay, so you might be asking, wait, a micro PC, how rugged is it? Well, it's no less rugged than your typical live shelf streaming box and hotspot. And we can explain how that works. All right, so when we talk about cost, you might already have some of these systems, some of these parts, I should say. So this streamer or encoder might be a micro PC that you already have, or you can buy surplus, or you can go a more premium route and then get like a newer device. We will cover that in the wiki, but you may already have the hotspot. Most people have hotspots. You may already have the USB cameras, and you may already have a USB microphone. So you might actually have all of this in your parts drawers. Now, if you were to buy this 100% new, you could buy a micro PC for about $279. You could buy some cameras for, maybe $100 a piece, depending on the quality and the configuration. USB microphones, those are nominal, $20. Hotspot, depending on the hotspot you get, you may already have that, or you get a premium hotspot or something with a Ethernet connection. It is up to you, but basically it's the same. It is the same fundamental technology that runs on it. Okay, so how to do it? So that is on the wiki. So we will go to the wiki, and we will go to the top. So we're going to run through these instructions on our wiki. We'll go ahead and share that with you as a link. It's not linked off the home page, but we will go ahead and check that out and share that with everybody after this video. So on the wiki, we have this full guide, video plus data streaming with RaceCapture. So this introduction, it shows you how to add video and data live streaming to your RaceCapture system. And then after you set this up, you'll have 2-camera video with picture-in-picture. You'll have rich real-time graphics overlay like you saw in our demo video recently. And you'll be able to broadcast to YouTube or your preferred streaming provider. And you'll also be able to do local video recording. So as we've recapped before, we have you'll be able to set this up where you can keep your existing dashboard and then add the streaming capability on top of that. And the reason why this is possible is because RaceCapture supports multiple connections. You have USB, you have Bluetooth, you have 2 Wi-Fi connections. So in this scenario, we have a dashboard running on a Fire tablet connected via Bluetooth, and then the streamer encoder is plugged into USB. It has the cameras attached, and it does the video rendering broadcast. And RaceCapture collects all the data off of CAN bus, the sensors, predictive timing, and so on. Aaron asks, is HDMI input supported? So what would that look like? Yes. So what you could do is if you have something that, if you have a USB to H.264, so let's say you have HDMI to H.264 encoder, or if it's like MJPEG, and it shows up like a camera, like a USB camera, then yes, HDMI would work also, in theory. So yeah, that would totally work. It would show up like another video device on the system, and then you would be able to select that. David asks, well, I guess David came in late because he's asking, would it work with RaceCapture Pro version 3 also? So yeah, this will work with any version of RaceCapture because the RaceCapture is supplying the data stream, and if it works with the app, then it'll work with this new streaming and encoder. So yeah, good question. Yeah, Aaron, yeah, basically it's a USB capture card. Okay, so we have the section about cost. Well, it could be between $800, between $0 and $800, depending on the parts you might have. How hard is it to set up? Well, these instructions are, let's say you're doing this right now and you're going to follow all these instructions and get a pile of parts and do this. So you would have to follow these instructions to go through the process and testing it. I'm sure our dealers will be interested in creating pre-packaged, pre-set up systems where you could just plug it in and go. And then we will work on creating like partial kits. We have a camera kit, maybe partial components that will get you started quickly as well. So this will support, like, if you want to go full on DIY, or if you want something that's more like an easy button, we will be able to do all of those things. So we have a little demonstration video. You've probably already seen that. So let's go over the parts you will need. You will need an existing RaceCapture system. So RaceCapture Trek Mark 1, RaceCapture Pro, Podium Connect will work, anything. And then you'll need a rendering or streaming micro PC. And these are tiny computers and they're very lightweight. The one that we found that works really well is this B-Link SCR5. It's relatively cheap. It's like $275 new. It's powerful, and it's actually pretty lightweight and compact. An alternative that we found is an older micro PC that is, you might find surplus or on eBay for $100. An Intel i5 6500s through an i5 7600. You want an SSD, of course. You want like minimum 8 gigs of RAM. You may have this kicking around, or it might be something you can get surplus. Don't need a lot of RAM. 8 gigs is fine. Included Wi-Fi is a nice plus if your hotspot has Wi-Fi, and then SSD, of course. So we have a couple of models that we've tested that work. So yeah, these are certainly options. I see another question. How weatherproof all the devices that you are offering as options? Do we need to harden them, and will that lead to heat issues? The cameras that we will be providing as a partial kit are IP65 rated. these mini PC solutions are as rugged and as waterproof as your typical Teradek encoder, or any other if you have a hotspot that is one of those industrial hotspots, it's as rugged and waterproof as something you would already use for a VBox system. So VBox system is somewhat waterproof. It has that HDMI connector on the front, so water ingress may be possible there. But then people are connecting HDMI cables to encoders, which are not waterproof or ruggedized. Then they connect to a hotspot or a router, which are also not ruggedized, and so on. So it's nominally about as ruggedized as that. So yeah, if you're running in a wet environment, you will want to protect it. And if it gets shorted out and you're using one of those micro PCs, you might be out $50 to $100. So that's the perspective. Yeah. So yeah, that's it's always a thing. These computers aren't race car grade. We get that. Neither are hotspots. Neither are these Teradek encoders. But people want to do it anyways, and they just deal with it. They have RJ45 connectors, which aren't race car grade. All the things. If you're connecting the dots here, you will know that we will eventually come up with a race car grade system that does basically this. And I won't say anything more than that. Yes, there is local recording for the cameras. On the RaceCapture Pro, it saves data to the SD card. This streaming agent will save to the local SSD, the video and data overlay, in addition to the live streaming. This is primarily focused on live streaming because that's what everybody wants, but it also does record to the local disk because it just forks the video and data. It forks the local recording and the live stream. One fork gets saved to the SSD on the streaming computer. The other one gets broadcasted to YouTube. Okay, so here's something that makes it more race car grade, because you don't need to plug this into AC. You don't need an onboard inverter. On Amazon, you can get 12 volt DC to DC converters that will convert 12 volt to the typical 19 volts that you would use for like a laptop or these micro PCs. These micro PCs have a barrel connector. They typically run off of 19 volts. Both of these, the B-Link or the Dell or the HP, run off of 19 volts. And these will just tap right into your car's power supply. You want to hook it into you need a circuit that'll handle like 100 watts, so give it a 15 amp circuit. You'll probably want to chop off the cigarette lighter and just hardwire it with some connectors. But this makes the system a little more reasonable because nobody wants an inverter in their car just to plug in some AC device, right? But yeah, these work. We ran basically the B-Link and this power brick for 8 hours and another 4 hours until the car broke on Sunday. No problems. All right. Love these questions. Thanks for asking them. Okay, now cameras. You will need 1 or 2 cameras for capturing and rendering video. So we have a recommended camera. It's not available yet. We're waiting for inventory to show up from our camera manufacturer. We have a couple of bullet cams that are very compact. They are waterproof. They're IP65 rated. They have a 90-degree field of view, and they seem to work really nice. And then we will offer a kit that has a clamp, that has a GoPro mount, like you see here in the photo. And then we'll have a suction cup mount for a windshield. So what you can do is attach the camera, the primary camera, to the windshield, and then attach a secondary camera, like with this GoPro mount, to your roll cage and then like point it at the driver or point it out the back or whatever you'd like to do, and then that could be the picture-in-picture view. So yeah, there are camera alternatives. You can get a different kind of USB camera, like your typical USB web camera. Logitech is a good option. You could find a camera that has one of those 1/4x20 threaded camera mounts for secure roll bar attachment to minimize vibrations. So yeah, we've tested it with a couple of different Logitech cameras. Same basic idea. These USB cameras conform, almost all of them. Like you get a normal USB camera is going to conform to a USB standard where it just shows up as a camera. Okay, so you will also need a microphone for capturing audio. You have a few choices. You have a USB microphone, an analog microphone, or microphone embedded in one of the cameras. So I think we recommend a USB microphone, and then you have a number of choices. You can get a USB mic that has a little extension cable. One of our community members on Discord suggested kind of a fancy high SPL microphone that works well. We have yet to test that, but as long as it works like a USB mic, then you'll be able to use it with this system. The other thing you will need, since you won't be having a monitor attached while you're streaming, is that you will need a display emulator. And these are tiny little dongles that plug into the HDMI port or the display port, and it just fools the computer into thinking there's a monitor attached. So that's pretty straightforward. And then, once this is set up, once you get it initially set up, you plug that in, and then you will just be able to run it and go. All right, so of course you will need a hotspot and a router. Backing up a little bit, the software that's running on this streaming device, just to recap in case you're coming in late, it does all the video rendering, it does all the recording, and it does all the encoding, and it also is responsible for the streaming. So it is actually up to like 2 devices at once. So a lot of like existing systems will have some sort of HDMI output. This is 2 devices in one. And then of course you would have your router that's attached to it. So what kind of hotspot or router you can use? Well, most any should work, but you can consider the hardwire Ethernet style hotspot. Those tend to be a little more upscale. If you have any suggestions on if there are any affordable hotspots that have Ethernet connections, that would be recommended. Call those out in the comments, because that would allow you to create a hardwired connection between the streamer and the hotspot, and then you wouldn't have to worry about any Wi-Fi configuration or any Wi-Fi dropping out. And of course, an external antenna connection. So if you have a hotspot that offers an external antenna, you would be able to use a higher gain antenna that you can mount on the roof, and then that will just give you better signal propagation and then better coverage at racetracks, where we know that racetracks are in rural areas and have marginal coverage at times. Yeah, so Anthony was saying like a peplink. A peplink is one candidate that we have seen. Not sure if there are any other ones. So so whatever, it would be good to kind of compile a list of routers that work well. Okay, so again here, just to remind you, we will work to create packages that are more like the easy button for people, so you don't have to go through all these setup steps. But we've done this setup many times, and we think that they are solid, and then they work, and they're pretty reliable. I think it's actually easier to set up than your Raspberry Pi installation, if you've done that. We have a similar kind of like a little install wizard that kind of sets up all the software. But yeah, we'll go over that now. So what you'll need to do is grab that streaming device, that streaming micro PC, connect the keyboard, mouse, and monitor to it, and then you're going to install Ubuntu 22, like basically the latest version of Ubuntu. So download it, install it on a flash drive, and then when you boot up the micro PC, you'll need to go into the boot menu and then configure the computer to boot up off the USB drive. Once you boot in onto the USB stick, you'll have the opportunity to install Ubuntu. And then during the installation, you'll have a few options. You definitely want to choose the third-party software for graphics, Wi-Fi, and additional media formats. Just erase the hard drive and just a complete install. And then you'll want it to log in automatically so that when the computer powers up, it'll go straight into the streaming software. And then once you're in the desktop, once it installs, reboots, and you're back, you'll want to log out, log back in with your normal password that you set, and then you'll want to disable the keyring pop-up. This is important, otherwise when the RaceCapture app runs, it'll like pop up a message and say like, you need to enter your keyring password, which is not the login password, but it's a password for storing your your authentication to Podium on that device. And then that's not as critical, but you'll still want to note the security notes in the guide. And of course, this is shouldn't be a super important computer to you, but you will need to secure it. And then just keep that in mind. Once you get that done, you will want to open a terminal and then enter a command into the terminal. And then this command that I have highlighted is a script that will download all the necessary packages, do all the configuration that's needed, and then set it up for live streaming. So what this does is it downloads the RaceCapture app, and then it downloads a streaming agent, and both of those together run to enable this overall live streaming capability. So the RaceCapture app does the video and the data overlay, and then the streaming agent grabs that video and audio and then saves it to disk on the local SSD and then broadcasts it to YouTube. But this script will do it automatically, and then when it's done, you will want to reboot the computer, and then it should automatically launch into the RaceCapture app. Once this happens, you will go into the RaceCapture app, and then you will need to set a few configuration options. First, you will want to go into app preferences, and you'll want to basically turn off a bunch of features that you won't want to have activated while this is broadcasting to YouTube. For example, you don't need to record data session. This is the local data session. It's not the video recording, it's the local data recording. You can turn that off. Set your startup screen to dashboard, so it goes straight to the dashboard. And then you will want to set it to full screen mode, and then that will fill up the screen on the view. And then you'll want to go into your dashboard preferences, and then you hit the gear icon, press more settings, and then you will want to turn off the pit to car alerts unless you want your YouTube viewers to see the pit to car alerts, which could be, entertaining, but you probably don't want to do that by default. You want to turn off the pit stop timer, and then you will also want to disable remote dashboard navigation. So if you have Shift X3 and you're hitting the buttons on Shift X3 to rotate your dashboard, navigate your dashboard left and right, you will want to disable that. Otherwise, your YouTube viewers will see dashboards moving back and forth. I'm going to pause for some questions. Let's see what we have. Greg has had good luck with the Netgear LM200, which is a cellular modem, only has an Ethernet connection. That's super cool. I'm going to look that up. Greg says, also, many racetracks have notoriously crummy cell bandwidth. What bitrate and resolution are you transmitting video at? I don't have those notes at hand, but I believe it's I believe it is hard-coded. We'll have to check, and eventually we might be able to make that configurable through a config file. All right, I'm going to take a drink. And no, it's not vodka, although I should have some, considering the streaming issues I had earlier. Okay, so after you have the dashboard and the app settings configured, you're going to want to plug in some cameras. So you're going to plug in 1 or 2 cameras into the USB port. And what you will want to do is on the B-Link, you'll want to plug those into the front connections. So it ensures you have enough bandwidth. So you plug camera number 1 into the left and camera number 2 into the right. If you have them backwards, you can just reorder them then in the software. Then you will plug in a USB microphone. And then after that, you will connect your RaceCapture system. Let's just say we're connecting it over USB. If you want to connect over Wi-Fi, you can configure that later. We're going to gloss over that, but it is the same mechanism for connecting over Wi-Fi. You have to connect to the RaceCapture access point, etc., etc. But in this scenario, it's much easier to connect over USB. So once you get into the dashboard and you have your video cameras connected, you will go into the dashboard, go into more settings, and then you will see a tab here called Camera Preferences. And you'll be able to select a video source for camera 1 and camera 2. So with the cameras attached, you will see this dev/video 0. That'll be camera 1, and then when you select the other camera, you'll see like /dev/video 2, which will actually be your second camera. So once you do that, your cameras are configured. And then after that comes kind of the fun part. What you'll be able to do is create a test dashboard. You will want to go to the settings icon and then select add gauge or change an existing gauge. And then what's cool is that the gauge is actually a video gauge. So you will select video gauge from the list, and then you will choose the camera 1 or camera 2 as the source, and then you will actually resize the dashboard. So it looks like this. So you select the dashboard, and then you will edit the dashboard and reorganize and configure gauges. So you have the primary the primary video in the background, and then you have gauges overlaid over the top. And then that is basically how it works. So you can design, the cool thing is that you can design any dashboard you want. You can put the picture-in-picture anywhere. It's all a drag and drop interface. It's the same dashboard customization that you have already been used to using for designing RaceCapture dashboards. You just now have video gauges. So those video gauges show up in the background, and the other gauges show up on top, and it like totally works. So yeah, a little bit of history. When we were quite a ways ago, when we launched the version 2 of the RaceCapture app that had the full drag and drop dashboard designer, we had this specifically in mind. So we're kind of on a long arc here from the original version of the app to being able to do this video and data live streaming with video gauges and regular gauges and so on. And then ultimately you'll be able to design dashboards, share them as a shared preset, and then you'll be able to share your creations and then pull down other people's presets and update those, and yeah, it'll be a great time. So we're very close to being able to stream, and in order to enable streaming, you'll need to go into YouTube and pick your get your streaming key. So normally you would set up a streaming, like you would schedule a YouTube stream, just like I did with this one. You would get your streaming key, and then you would go into back into the regular Ubuntu desktop, and there's a process for escaping that. There's a procedure for exiting out of that and logging back in on under the regular desktop. And then there's a config file that's sitting on the desktop. And then you have a few things you can edit. So you just edit with a text file. You specify your audio device. So audio device 1 is by default the first USB microphone. And then the local video recording goes into the videos directory of your computer. So you'll find that after your race. And then for your streaming key, you would specify the YouTube streaming key, and then you would copy and paste your streaming key into that file. And then once you are done, you would save that file and just do, you would log out and then reconfigure the login to log back into, to auto log into the streamer. And then once you've done that, then anytime you power cycle, the system will just start automatically streaming to YouTube as soon as it's powered up. Okay, so I have another question. Let's see. There was a question, you can add images. Yes, you can add images to the desktop. So that was one of the reasons why we added the bitmap gauges, is because everybody wants a sponsor logo on their, or their team logo on their video. So you can add a video gauge, and then I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. You can add a bitmap gauge, and then position that on the desktop just like any other gauge. And yeah. So let's see. Conover's asking, is YouTube the only option for the platform? Can video be pointed elsewhere? Yes, you can point it elsewhere. So if you look at this streaming file, this config file, the streaming URL can be replaced with the Facebook streaming, or if you're doing Twitch or something else. Haven't tested it with anything but YouTube, but in theory, that should work. Right. Yeah, with Twitch. We will have to test it. We or somebody else will have to test it with Twitch. Okay. So, yeah, the rest of this wiki is just some troubleshooting and some other tips. We got something kind of cool. We have a 3D, a bracket or a cage for mounting the B-Link, which is our favorite option for streaming. So you can download this STL file and print it on your 3D printer. This is basically, it wraps around the B-Link and lets you bolt it to a flat surface. So Gil, who owns the MR2 that we race with, our semi-official race car, team race car, designed this, and it's actually pretty nice. So if you go with the B-Link, you'll definitely want to print this out on your 3D printer. So I'm going to mess around a little bit and see if I can, because we're not using OBS, we're using a hacked solution for live streaming. I was going to set up a camera that points down at my desktop so I can demo it for you, but I am kind of running a little bit by the seat of my pants, so feel free to ask some questions while I do this. I'm going to try to get a video window of that camera pointing at the desktop so I can show you some of those parts. So I'm going to I have an alternate way of trying this out. We're being very creative here. Okay. All right. Send me some questions. Oh my God. Sorry for the feedback. Okay. Yeah, so Griffin is asking, are there recommended specs for the streaming computer? Well, find a tiny one. These micro systems are really small. They're like they almost fit in the palm of your hand. I mean, a little bit bigger than that. The B-Link definitely does. But you want, at the minimum, you want like an i5 6500 or an i5 7600, which is pretty old by today's standards. But the cool thing is that these computers were used in like checkout. You'll see them in like hospital waiting room, like I don't know, like in an office setting, right? It's like the tiny PC that's attached to a monitor in an office setting. So like you might see them at a counter at a hospital or a doctor's office, or at the checkout in the store. So these, because of that, these are showing up on eBay for like very cheap, like maybe $100 with a model that has an SSD or 8 gigs of RAM. And then these have enough horsepower to do the rendering and encoding and broadcasting. So that's why this is such a cost-effective solution for your existing RaceCapture system. Office Tune asked, a stick PC from Amazon will work? I doubt it. Those tend to be... we tried an N100. It doesn't have enough horsepower. And it's not so much like the GPU, although GPU is a factor. It's like just kind of like the CPU bandwidth and the memory bandwidth. So it's funny how like some of like those newer stick computers are actually slower than like these i5 6500s or these i5 7600s that you can find on eBay for cheap. Raspberry Pi is not powerful enough. It's just too slow. It actually does have a slow. It has a pretty crappy GPU. And to be honest, it's kind of outdated. It's just, Raspberry Pi is awesome because the software support's so great, and it is. I mean, they've done a great job with the community and the software, but the processor's getting a little long in the tooth. I mean, it runs the RaceCapture app quite well, but it is quite a bit too slow to be able to do this. And the funny thing is, if you have to buy a new Raspberry Pi, it's probably going to cost more than one of these surplus PCs on eBay. Let's see, Hunter, this may be out of scope, but what would it take to go a step further and also integrate radio comms? Yeah, so if that's a good question. So you can get like a USB microphone. So they make we actually have one of these to test. It's a USB microphone audio input. And then if you can get an audio splitter and then like have a microphone and then like split the audio from your radio comms, like an analog mux combiner, then yeah, you'll get the audio conversation. It's just a microphone input at that point, so it doesn't really matter. So I have... Let's see what we have here. Okay, here we are. This is I'm going to start messing around and showing you how this works. So let me... Hold on. I'm going to see if I could see that. I'm going to check to see if we're actually streaming right now on this mini PC. Yeah, we're live. Okay, so this is like Inception. So we're hold on a second. So we're doing a streaming about streaming, showing streaming from a streaming device. Older laptop from Fred. Could the display also have an onboard display with the PC while the PC streams? If you wanted to use, I mean, You can have the screen on the laptop showing in the car as a dashboard. You could do that. But you're going to want to, what you're going to put on that screen is going to be different than what you want as a driver, right? So, yeah. So here I am, I'm streaming. So you're seeing a video of, whoops. You're seeing a video of, this is my personal account, and I've been streaming for an hour and 48 minutes. And this is the live stream from the RaceCapture running as a live stream. So I'm going to play with this a little bit and then show you how it works. So I'm going to first show you what the cameras look like. So here are the two cameras. These are the cameras that we will be providing as a partial kit. And we have one with a suction cup mount and another one with like a GoPro style mount. And then as I move these cameras, you can see the video updating on the screen. So we have no data overlay right now, but we can easily add that. So I'm going to add a gauge. Since we're not moving, I'm going to add something that is we can show on the desktop here. So we're going to do a bar graph gauge, and then I'm going to show the yaw sensor. So here is the yaw sensor, and I have the RaceCapture track here. I'm going to move it into the frame. And if you want to see what this looks like with a little bit of, to show you what the latency looks like, there I am. That's the yaw sensor, and I'm moving it, and you could see that we are synchronized with the video. Yeah, so that is one example of how that would work. Let's see what we can do. Let's say we're actually pretending to create a real dashboard. So let's do analog gauge, and then, okay, let's do speed. This is the fun part of the process where you get to design the dashboard. And if, like as I mentioned this before, this whole drag and drop dashboard design, we had a big plan for an ultimate goal of doing video and data overlay. Not just to make cool custom dashboards for inside the race car, but also for broadcasting video and data. So there was this kind of this grand plan that we had. Yeah, so we can add another gauge. Let's see if we want to add a track map. I don't know if this will work. Let's see. Oh yeah, it needs a GPS lock before it'll show the track map, but you can put the track map like up in the corner, and then when you are done, you can lock the dashboard, and then you go to broadcasting mode, and yeah, there it is. I just realized that yeah, you're actually able to see that on the screen, but yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. You know, I would maybe on the next demo we'll have this out in the garage, and we will get this actually set up and do like a proper live stream. Maybe we'll get a you know, when I was trying to diagnose our streaming problems, I almost used RaceCapture and this live streaming agent to do the actual live stream, but I needed to share the desktop. I needed like to show you the slides and the wiki, so it wouldn't have worked out. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Throw me some more questions. How many of you have these kind of parts already in hand? Anybody have USB cameras or USB microphones? Actually, I do have a few devices here. Let's see. So we have here's one type of this is an analog mic. We have a different type of USB audio input device. So this is not a microphone, but this plugs in over USB, and then this red connection would plug a microphone in, and then this will probably give you a little bit better audio experience than like a cheap microphone, or if the microphone's built in to the USB camera. So you can place this in a strategic location, and then this will plug in, and then you would be off and running. This is a different type of microphone that seems to be a little bit higher quality. We'll share the link in the wiki as well, but we haven't tested this, but I think it might have a higher dynamic range, so it can deal with like the loud environments. And also has a windscreen, and it does have one of those 1/8" jacks as well. And then if the video demo that you saw in the wiki, our inaugural test, we had a very inexpensive USB microphone that just plugged right in, and this thing's garbage. It has terrible audio quality. It was clipping a lot and getting overwhelmed, so it really wasn't a very good option. It was kind of like the option you use when you just want to get it working and just, want to see it operating. So a little bit, I'm going to move the camera over so you could see the setup here. So there's the B-Link. There's the RaceCapture, and then the camera's attached. And then this is the streaming output that is being broadcasted to this YouTube stream. Oh, cool. I've got more questions. Let's see. The questions will come rolling into your inbox once we start the process of physically installing everything. Yeah, totally. Well, you can post in Discord or on Facebook. We will certainly do more follow-up videos and setup tutorials, and hopefully we'll see some dashboard designs and some YouTube broadcasts by you. But I think the cool thing is that this has the capability of you're getting the capability of like $5,000 systems, because like when you add up like the expensive main component from other systems that have been around for a long time, you have to get the HDMI to H.264 encoder, which is often quite expensive, and then you have to get your hotspot. All those pieces combined adds up quite a bit, and then with this solution, you can put it together for like pennies on the dollar and still have really good results. We did when you do a test like this for the very first time, you're just not sure what to get, and you have like this system running in a car. You can't reach in and hit the reset button or diagnose it. But once we got it working, it just kept running, for 8 hours straight on that first race day. And we were running at the Ridge Motorsports Park using AT&T. The connectivity was not the best. I mean, AT&T is the only game in town out there. It's okay. It's not great, and there were some dead spots in the track. And we did quite a bit of work to make sure that like if there was a disconnect, it recovered. we did quite a bit of testing for like stream recovery, and we saw times when there was a pause and a hiccup, and then it came back just like you would expect when the cellular coverage came back, and it just chugged along for that whole time. So we were thrilled to see the results of that. Oh, questions. Let's see. Max says, I don't have any of these parts. Are you going to have some kind of list with links for when we go to collect all the components, maybe from the plug and play options to extreme budget options? Yeah, we'll enhance the wiki to have kind of a complete list. There are already some links in the wiki already to suggested items, and then I'm sure we'll improve that over time. And then, of course, I'm sure our dealers will put together packages for you, and then we'll also offer kind of like partial kits as well. Hunter says, so the poor audio quality with the Sentinel systems, for example, is related to the mic they provide, or yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's just the mic. So I was chatting with our team member Gil about this, and he wisely pointed out that in a race car environment, you have a pretty high dynamic range. You can go from quiet to very loud, and you need to kind of optimize for like the loudest it can be in that particular car. And different cars have different, you might have a really loud car. Like if you're running in an RX-7, you might need to turn the gain down on the microphone in the settings on the computer, just so you're not clipping the microphone, like the audio is not clipping, right? So that will take some adjustment to do. Okay, so Jim is asking, if you're using a Podium Connect streaming telemetry to RaceCapture over cellular, can you transmit telemetry via the one hotspot, so only one cellular radio in a race car, need 5G hotspot? Yeah, so the Podium Connect is really kind of like a data-only telemetry system. That's kind of it's kind of focused on like the data analysis part of it. You can not use the internal cellular, and then you can also configure this streaming computer to broadcast cellular. The telemetry, it could actually do both. You just go into the app and say enable telemetry, and then it would start streaming that way too. So yeah, that would work. Let's see. Any way to change the mic level gain? Yeah, there's I kind of glossed over it. Yeah, you can go into, when you exit the streaming app, you can go in and adjust the mic levels using the UI tool that's provided. There's also a command line option that's a little more advanced that you can change the microphone settings. It'll take some adjustment, but I think once you dial it in, you won't have to change it again. David says, this is so cool. Thank you so much for providing this feature. Thank you for, being an advocate of our products. And we've always wanted to do this. Like, we see a lot of products, like you actually spend engineering resources developing licensing and keys and like paywalls and stuff like that in software, and in some cases it's just like I'd just rather make the feature and then have gain the goodwill, and if we sell more systems, that's great, because this could be a very compelling solution. Like the cost of a RaceCapture track plus the assorted components, you could be well under $1,000 depending how creative you are. So and then you get all the other benefits. You get the in-car dashboard, you get the live telemetry data to Podium for lap analysis. It's not just video and data streaming. You get all the other capabilities too. Yeah. Cool. I'm glad this live stream turned out. For those showing up late, if you're wondering why it's a little janky, well, our streaming software blew up. Everything was working great, and then we're using Open Broadcaster Studio, and I hit the streaming button a few minutes before, It was time, and then it literally crashed. Every time it would hit the streaming button, it would crash. So right now I am streaming through a command line interface, and it is totally hacked, but we figured it out, and I really thank you for your patience. And yeah, I'm like super hungry. I probably want to eat something too. All right, I can hang out for a little bit of time. I'm already in my mind spinning my wheels on how to do this better, like doing a better demo, maybe set it up on a car so we can have the cameras pointing out the car and kind of get something a little more realistic. Maybe get a live streaming set up on a tripod so we can like point at the car and then do some better demos. But yeah, open to a few more questions before we conclude this live stream. The live stream about live streaming live streams. Do kind of have one question. What's your preference for what is your preference for, like, where do you want to position your cameras while I have your attention? Do you want a camera on the windshield pointing straight out, or you want it on the roll cage behind the driver? I mean, if you have two cameras, you could put one on the windshield pointing straight out, and then you can have that second camera pointing at the driver or pointing out the back. What's your take on that? What would you want to see? You want one facing the rear. Yeah, I get that, because you want to see like what the situation is around the car. David wants it mostly on the roll cage. Roll cage is good because you can get like the complete, you get a view out the windshield and then the view of the driver doing their driving thing. You know, I'm surprised this didn't come up, but it might be theoretically possible to do 3 cameras. I didn't want to get greedy with the features, but we're kind of arbitrarily limiting the number of cameras. But right now we figured 1 camera and a separate picture-in-picture is kind of like the sweet spot of what people want. Yeah, just as I said that, Hunter says the max number of cameras is 2. Yeah, that's correct. There's no real reason why we've limited it to 2. It's just it just seemed like a sensible starting point. Max is saying, I would put a camera on the roll cage so you can see the driver, then a camera out the back. Yeah, that's not bad. Cool. Well, I will go ahead and I will be adding a link to our wiki and posting the link to the wiki everywhere on Facebook, Discord, and so on, so you can get started. And I would really like to see how this. Want to see who's the first one to get this up and running, even in your garage. You don't have to. You don't have to wait until you're at the track. Show us it working in your garage and live streaming to YouTube. It doesn't matter. We want to see it in action, and we really want an affordable option that also works really well for all of you. I can't emphasize, a lot of the core technology is really robust. The RaceCapture app is really robust. The RaceCapture hardware is really robust. So a lot of that it's the same technology you've used all along. The new part is the streaming agent, and then the video gauges that you can add to the dashboards. So those are actually the new parts. So we're not testing a brand new system that's never been released before. There are a lot of core components here that are kind of like battle hardened from, many software and firmware releases. Yeah, I totally agree. Audio really matters. I think playing with high quality microphones and then just getting a nice audio stream would be would be cool. And you know, even a stereo setup would be nice because I think a stereo configuration might work. We'll have to test that. But yeah, stereo. If you had stereo, a microphone on each side of the car, you can hear cars, passing. If you're passing a car on the right, you'll hear it more out of the left speaker. It'll just kind of be a more immersive experience. I think that's really true. The audio really matters. All right, I'm going to cut this off. I really appreciate you hanging with us through our technical difficulties um, and your patience. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the great questions. And let us know when you get this set up. We're really excited to have you use this. All right. Yeah. Thank you all. And have a great evening.